It's been a while since the last time I worked out in the metaverse, probably due to the fact that the last time I did, I ended up slamming my hand and controller into a Peloton tread. Now, a few months later, after a break testing out various non-VR devices, I decided it's time to finally jump back in. Especially since seeing this article by the Washington Post, where they showed some data from a study comparing the metabolic demands of various exercises compared to popular fitness VR apps like Supernatural. And so I grabbed my MetaQuest 2 with a new goal in mind: to become the fittest man in the metaverse. And so after taking a warm-up round in Beat Saber, I thought to myself, let's see how riding a Peloton bike feels in VR. Unfortunately, what I didn't know is that since Peloton is a closed system, that I would need a cadence sensor to do so. But then in the app it said, hey, you don't need a bike, you can just use your body. So I thought, hey, let's do a marathon of that. But after a few minutes of staring at my avatar and his weird kinky arms, I just couldn't take it anymore. So I tried changing views to first person. I even changed the layout from Google Maps to a more cartoony world to see if that would help, but it just wasn't doing it for me. So I thought maybe there's a better fitness challenge for me out there. I tried racing as a unicorn, but that didn't seem to work out too well for me either. I tried being a cowboy for a while, and that was better, but it still wasn't quite doing it. And then I thought to myself, I've been watching a lot of that F1 racing documentary on Netflix. Let's try something like that. And turns out I'm just not a great driver, both in VR and probably in real life. So I moved on to another app that might hold some more potential with some cardio. Now this was dance cardio, which is not something I'm super familiar or comfortable with. And even after giving it my best, it just felt a little too strange. Maybe it wasn't for me, maybe it was my instructor, and maybe it was just me not fitting in with the other people taking the class. And then I found this trailer for one of Supernatural's new programs.
In this 5-day program, we put together a mix of some of our toughest flow and boxing workouts.
You can complete these 5 days of workouts at whatever pace you'd like.
How about getting it all done in one session? This was it. This was the challenge I needed to show that I could one day become the fittest man in the metaverse. So I found out that the Supernatural Beast Challenge consisted of 9 of some of their hardest workouts designed to be taken over the course of 5 separate days. And taken all together back to back, this should take about 3 hours and 10 minutes. Although if you skip the warm-ups and cooldowns like I did, you'll be able to finish around 30 minutes faster than that. So pretty much the same amount of time as a fast marathon. And as somebody who has had very little prep going into this, and definitely none of the equipment to make this a comfortable experience, like a built-in fan or an extra battery or some sort of head strap to make this all more comfortable, I decided to just jump right in through the first 2 sessions designed for day 1, and while these were pretty difficult, I was still really fresh, so I felt great and was able to get a score I was pretty happy with. But then came session 3. Now session 3, unlike the first 2, which were flow type workouts, this was the first boxing workout and one of only 3 in this 9 workout program. And now most people may not realize this, but boxing workouts compared to the flow type workouts are much more difficult. Your heart rate is typically sustained at a much higher pace, and at least from my experience, can be extremely tiring. Now I made it through this workout with an average heart rate of 161 with a max heart rate of 179. And at this point, having been going for over 40 minutes, I was definitely getting fatigued and more than a little worried that as of right now, I was less than 1/3 through of the whole session. Now, as I continued working my way through each of these sessions, each one feeling more difficult and more tiring than the last, I realized that I should probably be drinking a lot of water and that I was getting really hungry, so I probably would be better off having something to fuel myself. Luckily, I have a whole bag of this liquid IV, which is something that I typically use in longer bike and running endurance workouts, which contains a lot of stuff to help keep you going, like electrolytes and some extra sugars and all that. So I definitely continued chugging through a couple of those as I continued on, working my way bit by bit through this marathon effort. Now at this point, about 2 hours into the session, I was starting to get really uncomfortable given how much sweat was constantly on my face and no really way to wipe it down during the workout given the VR headset and my hands on the controllers. But then I remember those F1 drivers, and what I remember from the docuseries is that they would always put this fabric type sock over their face before their races. And so I found an old tank top of my wife's, cut a hole in it, put it over my head, and you know what? As stupid as I looked, it felt much better. Now, as I got closer and closer to the end, there were two problems which were coming up. The first problem was that my MetaQuest headset was running really low on batteries, and I was getting really worried that it was going to die on me in the middle of one of the workouts. The second issue was my right arm. See, typically with like long runs or long bike rides, you're primarily using your legs, which are really more better suited for those type of endurance efforts rather than your shoulders and your arms, which are primarily what are being used here in Supernatural. So of course, at this point, my arms were just screaming and I was really getting concerned. I was feeling like maybe the start of a little bit of tendonitis near the elbow, and given that my job is to review fitness equipment, that is not something that I would like to have happen, especially while I'm in the midst of currently reviewing 3 rowers. So I was getting more and more worried about my arm and the batteries. So at one point I did just stop it to take a break to let the headset recharge and spend some time to massage out my arm. And luckily this little break solved both problems, as my headset had just enough charge, I thought, to make it all the way through to the end, and my arm felt significantly better. And that was really important because I had next what I thought might be the hardest combination of classes, because the only other 2 boxing classes in this program were on day 4 and they are back to back. But even though the boxing classes were harder, it's actually something I enjoy quite a bit more. So I found myself with a renewed sense of energy, really getting into this and getting some of the highest scores I had gotten throughout the entire challenge. Now, after completing these, I was on to the final workout of the challenge, an enormous 49-minute workout called Pros Only Party. Now, going into this, considering that this is the longest workout of all of them by far, I figured that the songs and the workouts might be a little bit more mellow to help compensate for how long the session was. And the moment that I got started, I realized that is not going to be the case here, as this was not only the longest workout of the entire challenge, it was by far the single hardest session that I've ever taken on Supernatural. So it was an incredibly brutal way to finish out this marathon of a challenge. And then, over 40 minutes of this session later, I was done. Done with this workout, done with this challenge, done trying to become the fittest man in the metaverse, at least for today. And as I laid there thinking, why the hell did I just do this? I hope that there might be others who would also be willing to take on the challenge. Now, this is not a suggestion for everybody to take on this challenge, as I really don't think this workout, which primarily uses your arms, is the best designed for an endurance type effort. However, those who are foolish and want to take it on like me, I would love to know those scores and have you post them below. And until I get the next urge to prove myself in the metaverse, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.